And welcome out, team, to another edition of Trade Masters presented by Tackle Trading. This is Coach Frank hanging out again with Coach Matt, ready to talk some charts, talk some trade setups with the team. But before we do that, welcome out, everybody. Great to have you here. If this is your first time, welcome, welcome. Always helpful to hit that subscribe button, just so you'll know where we're going live. And of course, it helps us too with the YouTube algorithm. Like it if you like it, share it with a friend. You know all of that fun YouTube stuff. And also, if you're not a pro member, there's never a better day than today to take advantage of that free 15-day trial over at Tackle Trading, get access to the awesome Master Trader course that we just wrapped up over the last couple of evenings with Coach Matt and Coach Gino, talking technicals, talking options, worth the price of admission in and of itself. Catch the recordings there, sign up for the next one, but also our weekend newsletter, our trader report, our coaches shows, and of course, the best trading community out there, bar none. So if you are not yet a pro member, head on over to tackletrading.com. Easy to get signed up for a trial. We'll have a link in the description as well. With all of that said, Maddie, it was a lot of fun last week. I think we're going to have a lot of fun this week as well, my friend. How you doing?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun last week. I thoroughly enjoyed it, especially that ABBV trade there, Frankie. That thing just went absolutely ham, still ongoing, riding that 9 on the stop loss. Let's see if we can catch some momentum.
Yes, sir.
Market pulling back, the market hasn't had momentum. That did not stop us from finding a great trade that absolutely did. So hopefully we can rinse and repeat that beautiful find from last week and see what we can do this week. And as always, me and Frankie are going to have two rounds here. Round one, we're going to talk a little bit of a pure swing trade conversation between Frankie and myself. And then round two, we got both of us have our minds kind of on the gold stocks right now. And so
We have the gold round.
Frank did what he always does. He found his favorite cheapy gold stock, and I did what I did, find my favorite technical gold stock. And so we are going to talk a little bit about those mining stocks here in just a moment as well. And as we always do, guys, make sure as we go through the rounds, communicate, make some comments, tell us which ones you like the most, and let's have a lot of fun today.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to hear people's thoughts on the setups. Well, we're going to do gold round, but we're going to do that round two, Maddie. Before we get to round two, my friend, we got to get through round one. And I know what you got. I think you know what I got. Both really interesting situations. I'm going to let you go first, though, here today, my friend.
You're so kind. You're
I
so
know.
thank you, gentleman and you scholar. First and foremost, just one thought on the market here this week. In the newsletter, in in for 3 hours in Master Trader, I taught the importance of what this trend line is, and I am not surprised this trend line got drilled today, and I'm not surprised the bull stepped up when that trend line got drilled. Very important. Just keep an eye on that for the bulls. If you are a bull and you're looking in the market, anything above that trend line, you see it through the bullish lens. Anything underneath that, a little bit neutral, maybe even a slightly bearish situation. So keep an eye on that trend line on the ES. But Frankie, my first round pick here, we talked about it a little bit in the Traders Lounge this morning, and it really does stand out in terms of the momentum of EA here. First and foremost, whenever you look at the quality of the current pattern, you really have to look at the momentum condition of the trend going into the pattern. And one of the problems with the market right now is it didn't have trend momentum going into a pullback. Well, what we have here is we have trend momentum going into a pullback. And that's usually a pretty good sign in terms of continuation here. You look at it from a multiple time frame perspective on EA here. We got a nice little bullish uptrend. Hold on, let me get that weekly chart very quickly. Got a nice little bullish uptrend, positive momentum on the release of the earnings a couple weeks ago. And this is really kind of that first pattern after the breakout that occurred. And so in Master Trader this week, Frankie, I teach trending patterns. I teach the trends and I teach the patterns that go into the trends from the very basic level of technical analysis and pattern development within the construct of a trend. We see it through the 1, 2, 3 cycle. 1, you get the breakout. 2, you get the overextension. 3, you get the pullback. Well, what do we got here? We got the breakout. We got the overextension, and now we got the pullback. It's very clean from a technical perspective. And on that pullback situation, to understand the depth of the retracement, draw your Fibonacci. We got a 38% retracement here. That's a standardized retracement. We're looking for standardized confirmation. Entry above the high of the candle, stop loss underneath the low of the candle. That's how you would process a go or don't type setup on a retracement. And so you really got a good little go or don't type setup here with an entry above the high, stop underneath the low, pretty cheap risk in that environment. And when you're looking at from a targeting perspective, I kind of feel like you target into the 180 level at T1, kind of the previous tippity top before we went through the retracement. And then secondarily, the technical targets would actually put you up over 200, quite frankly, when you look at either through the lens of potential average yield or you look through the lens of Fibonacci extensions. I kind of feel like $200 is the level here, though. Even though those technical targets put you over 200, I kind of feel like those significant whole numbers going to play out a little bit. So targeting here 180 by 200, looking at it through the lens of an option swing trade here. And the last thought I'll give you is just one on the indicator side of the equation. RSI is an indicator that helps you understand everything I just talked about from the trending aspect of the environment. Number one, you got your momentum situation on the breakout. RSI got overextended in that. As RSI got overextended, you started seeing the sellers come back in, and that profit-taking mode over those 2-3 days brought RSI back down into a much more sensible range right around that 60 level. And whenever you get a positive hook above 50 on a retracement, RSI is confirming that move to a certain extent. What you would like to see on your secondary indicator on MACD, which will lag the price action, is you want to see that slow hook on the percentage K. We haven't seen that yet. Not abnormal in a retracement type situation.
Right.
Frankly, a lot of times I like to kind of look at it on the hourly chart in a retracement to give me a better read on MACD. And
Makes
what is
sense.
MACD right here doing on the hourly charts? Crossing above the zero barrier. That is a bullish signal. That's a secondary bullish signal after you get the hook and the cross. It's when you cross the histogram. And so just a pro tip there on MACD. MACD is going to lag retracements quite a bit. Drop it down into intraday to get a little bit of a better read there. I like the pattern here. I got it as a go or don't type setup with an entry above the high, stop underneath the low there in the retracement. Let's get you up and let's see if we can get some action here. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought about this one too. I've been thinking about it since we talked about it in the lounge this morning, to be honest with you. So you definitely can sign me up for this. That was just a tremendous breakout with the earnings behind you. You needed that secondary pattern. You got that secondary pattern. Really cheap risk, good reward scenario here, right? Which is so important. It's so important to be able to get paid handsomely when you're right and not get punished when you're wrong. It's a beautiful look. I don't have much to say. Do you have a particular thought in mind as far as how you would want to go about playing it? I know there could be quite a few
I'm thinking
options.
a debit spread here. I'm thinking a debit spread here. I haven't structured the trade specifically, so I'll just kind of look at it right here. Got some. These will tighten up when the market
Yeah, they
reopens
should.
tomorrow. The EA is not a bad liquidity stock here, but I do think you're probably thinking of 58 days out on the option. Maybe if you're ultra aggressive, you could look at the 30-day contract here. If you're at the 30-day contract, I would just look at from a strategy perspective, just kind of doing a standardized bull call spread here. If I'm doing it on the 30-day contract, if I did it on the 58-day contract, I'd probably start it a little bit out. The 175 contract, that's kind of the first one out of the money. Wrap it with that 185, maybe even a little bit deeper than that. So I haven't really structured the option side of it, but I would be doing a bull call spread here. The only question I have is, do I just buy the call first? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that could be
Just
yeah,
buy
that
the
would make
call
sense.
first, get a little bit of action to the top side, and then even after you get 1 or 2 days to the top side, you can kind of get up around that $200 level, which is what I really want to sell at. Is the $200 level. So you
Right.
can't
And
do
just
that right now. So most likely, frankly, I'll just do a call option, slightly out of the money call option with an expectation to sell the call side of the equation after a couple days of price appreciation.
love it. Love it. Makes a lot of sense. Nothing wrong with scaling in to a spread, especially if
Yep.
you can get a reasonable price out of the gates on the long call. I like it, my friend. I don't like it as much as I like what I'm going to bring,
Mhm.
but I
Let's
do
yeah.
like it. And what I'm going to bring is not tremendously different, at least in the short term. And that's Etsy. Etsy, very similar situation in the short term. Big run to the upside, got a nice breakout. Now we pulled back into the breakout channel. So this is one of those textbooks breakout of resistance, gets flying a little bit high, pulls back into the breakout channel, and support starts to try to build, right? You would expect old resistance to try to act as new support. So far, that is what we have seen on these guys over the last couple of days. Unlike EA, that's basically flying as high as it's ever been, right? These guys aren't. If you give me a weekly chart on this, I think you'll
Beautiful.
see
50%
why.
here too.
Yeah, that is, boy, that is, yeah.
50%.
Yeah, that's pretty. That's pretty. So is that weekly chart, right? So these guys struggled for quite some time, but have recently
Not been part of the conversation at all, have they?
no, they have just been on the they've been at the stinky kids table for quite some time. But the thing about it is things that have been beaten for a long time, sometimes when they do show those signs of reversals, well, they have a lot of room to go, right? I don't really think there's any real resistance to be worried about on Etsy until you get into the mid 80s. Now, I don't know that that's a swing trading target, probably not, but it does kind of go to show that there is just a tremendous amount of room. And I do think you could have a secondary target on Etsy at that $85 level. Very similar to EA in the sense that we've now seen that momentum slow to the downside. We got our inside bar here today. That typically looks like what we call it tackle trading, a king's bed on pattern on an intraday level. Certainly going to kind of be the case here. Just think we need a little bit of upward movement in price here, get through those moving averages, get through that top shelf right there that Maddie just brought up, and let's rock and roll. The trend line taken out, everything kind of starts to line up from a technical point of view. If
Especially the intraday here, Frankie, it looks pretty good.
it's very clean on the intraday. You
That's
love
a
when
head
you
and
get the
shoulders on the intraday. That's pivot formation type analysis. It's good.
yeah, exactly. And so when you were getting in, let's get that confirmation. It's going to cost us very, very little to get there. You're going to have all sorts of options on how you want to structure your stop loss, I would say, on this. And it might depend on how aggressively you're targeting. If you're just targeting back up to the swing high, you're going to probably be a little tighter than if you're trying to get anywhere near the $80 level, right? But I think you are thinking about with this guy here, at least giving the stop loss under the 20-day moving average. Yeah, you could go basically under today's low if you really wanted to. And that 20-day moving average will catch up relatively quickly if we see any upward movement in price. I would just not want to get knocked out on some day-to-day nonsense if it didn't violate that moving average. That's below the breakout channel, a little bit below the pivot. You get that bad boy working for you as well. So I would give it a little bit of room here on the stop loss. Whereas on EA, I'd kind of go right under the low that you highlighted. And I feel like that was kind of like the obvious place for me would have been.
Yeah, because if you go underneath the low on EA, like it's going to go deeper.
You feel like it just fills up and is testing the breakout channel, right? Which is a ways away.
Goes
This
under
one
Etsy,
does.
you kind of feel like you might get prematurely stopped out.
You've got a pretty decent zone. And so I do think you want to give it a little bit of room. You're going to have a dealer's choice way of playing Etsy. Of course, shares play, long calls play. I'm mostly a spread trader. Mostly, I don't really like to buy calls, just not really my style. A couple of things though, I wouldn't fault somebody if they did, by the way. It's just not my style. So I was looking.
There's never anything wrong with selling something against a call option.
And mentally, that's just where I'm at.
Yeah.
It's two things. It's one, it's a natural hedge against the worst thing about call options, time decay, right? It doesn't completely offset it, but it does hedge it some. And two, and this is so important for me because I have a very strict rule, and everybody at Tackle Trading knows this. If you can't have two, you can't have one, right? And it's easier to have two spreads than it is to have two calls.
Can you explain that a little bit, Frankie? Because I think that is such a wonderful way of thinking about it.
So it's
position size when you're thinking about can you make that trade position size? Well, if you can only afford one contract, that doesn't give you a lot of tools, right?
It doesn't. You live in this very yes or no, stay or go type of world. Yeah, and
black and white zone of trading, which is you got to be right, and
you got to be right now.
Trading is making money when you're not right.
So exactly. And so, yeah, really it comes down to, I want that flexibility. And if I have one call option, I have none. I'm either, it has a good day tomorrow. Now I have to think, well, I made 35% of my call Should I leave? Right. Hopefully I'm not thinking like that, but probably is going to cross my head, right, from time to time, right. At my first target, maybe I get to this recent swing high and I have one call option. Well, that call option's worked out really nicely. Do I, risk giving, good chunk of it back because they move down faster than they move up, right, because of the way delta works? Well, if I have two of whatever, two shares, two calls, two spreads, two whatever, I can sell one of them at that resistance level and pull my stop loss to break even on the other one and give it some room to run. So for me, it's the flexibility that it gives you. And I also want to give things to run. I think that Etsy can make it to $85. I don't know that they'll be able to do it within the constructs of my trade, right? And I might be wrong anyway, but I want to give them a chance to run. But I also know if Etsy runs up to that $70 level, that was a pretty okay trade. And I want to make sure I'm walking away somewhat profitable on it. Having one thing, either I have to give up one. I can either lock in the profit or I can, or I can lock in the upside, but I have to choose. If I have two or more, I can scale, right? Close one, leave the other one open with a stop loss at break even, and let's see where this guy will take me. And so it is a core philosophy for me. It is a core
I
rule
love it.
for
If
the
you can't
Delta
have two,
dogs.
you can't have one.
It's as simple as that. And I don't bend on it. At any point in time, that is one of those. Some rules are more guidelines,
Well,
right?
and even on the other side of the equation, Frankie, having the ability to scale into and build a position to be able to, like, hey, I got something good here. I want to add
I
to
want to
it.
add to it.
You don't have to
Exactly.
pull, you don't have to pull everything off at 70 if you got the proper momentum and everything's looking good.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. You
hey,
can.
I want to add to the position, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So
so
it
I'm
forces you to be more responsible, right? I mean, everybody says they're willing to risk X amount till they're risking X amount, right? So we all tend to do better when we actually mean what we say. So yeah, it is a core tenet for me and the Delta Dogs of tackle trading. So I tend to go over the spread because of that. So one, it's easier to get two, but it's also easier to get three. I'd rather have three
yeah,
spreads than two calls. I'd rather have five spreads than two calls or three calls, right? So I can
yeah.
do those type of things.
All right, Frankie. Let's get some thoughts from the team here. Um, What stock do you prefer here on the pure technical swing trading conversation here? We got Frank with the standardized pullback on Etsy. We got a 38% momentum pullback on EA. Frankie, if I had to say one or the other, okay? I personally like Etsy a little bit more. I like the totality of the technical story on Etsy a little bit more. When you look at the weekly chart on EA, you are processing a pure swing trade. Like you that's what you're processing. You're saying the momentum's going to continue, and if that momentum continues, it's a fantastic situation. I think you got more leeway on the Etsy trade. I think you got more technical stories to kind of get behind on the Etsy trade. And so little different here, but we don't vote necessarily. But
Yeah, it's just
I
a
actually, I actually like the Etsy trade in totality a little bit more than the EA trade. I like them both, by the way, a
yeah,
lot.
I do like them both. I do too. I oftentimes will put my midweek scans in the Discord, step Discord for pro members, and I did it before today. And one note I made is, Matt, you can't steal Etsy. So so uh,
You
I
did say,
do I do have to go with Etsy, but I would agree with Linda there. I like them both as well. And the beautiful thing is we can absolutely
I
play them
just call me a sucker and old fashioned here, but I just always will prefer
the
a
mid tier.
good mid tier because that's what Abby V was last week. It was
Yeah,
a breakout. This isn't, I wouldn't call it a reversal here. It's past the point of the reversal, but you're already in the trend after the reversal. You obviously got more room to run on the top side. I just think from just my eyes perspective, first of all, I'm a sucker for a reversal. I love reversal analysis. Probably a little bit more than the next guy, and the next guy guaranteed loves reversal analysis. Who doesn't love a good reversal?
exactly.
So I kind of like it, just that technical story a little bit more than the sense of chasing something at the top side. That's why I kind of feel like this is a pure swing trade conversation on EA, but both of them pretty decent in my opinion. Frankie. Round one, it looks like most people agree with Etsy. Etsy's kind of the winner there from
That's
round
the
one.
well,
Let's
picture is
kind of
right.
talk about the gold round two here. Now,
Gold round. Love
you
it.
know, there's let's just kind of go look at GDX very quickly. GDX has a beautiful consolidation daily chart with a potential breakout in mind. Not everything in GDX is a potential breakout, but when you have the breakout situation, you definitely want to see this breakout here. The 5880 level, you're definitely tracking that breakout. Pretty clean consolidation at the top here. I wouldn't necessarily call it a high base. I'd literally just kind of refer to it as a little bit of short-term consolidation, but kind of lining up that potential breakout here pretty decent. And there's some pretty decent stocks across the board just to kind of just throw out some radar candidates here, Frankie, on the gold side of the
Yeah,
equation.
there's some choices.
AU in a really good pullback situation coming down to the breakout channel. You definitely want to see this one as a king's bed because you got that 9 EMA working against it right now. We love the 9 EMA working for us, and so keep an anchor there. AU looks pretty good. Newmont Mining, that was one we talked about just a couple weeks ago in the scanner report meeting. For those of you that are not pros, come over here and join us as a pro because you're going to love the traders report. Newmont was a fantastic swing trade there. Now you're talking about a breakout, very similar to GDX, extremely
Very much so.
to GDX right now. So the only reason I bring up those two, and you're like, well, why didn't you pick one of those two? Because those two look fantastic. And I'm like, yes, they do
They
look
do.
fantastic.
They do look nice.
Well, we got other ones too.
We
Uh,
do.
and I'm going with Franco here, Frankie. I like
All right.
the multiple time frame
You
conversation.
had me. You had me at Frank.
I thought I would. I thought I would. I like Franco Nevada here for a couple different reasons. Number one, I just love a multiple time frame conversation. I just do. It always kind of gets me cooking on the multiple time frame conversation, and you got a beautiful front running situation going
Oh,
into
you
it.
do.
You got that flag-based pattern with the power candle going into it. And I do think you can, even with the double top, I think you could trigger above the high. Now, I don't think it would be, yeah, I don't think it would be a bad thing to pay for the confirmation on the breakout of 180 here either. That weekly chart, for example, look at that weekly chart. You're kind of breaking through that. And so if you want to wait on that, that's perfectly fine as well. The reason I really like it is the construct of the 30-minute chart here. Look at this 30-minute chart trend line here. Beautiful trend line, little bit of a consolidation, break back up through the power, and hasn't really shown anything wrong here. If you are going to trigger from an intraday perspective in front of that 180 breakout, it would have to be from a day trader's perspective. Get your pattern on the day trading side of it, but ultimately, I do think you're looking at the potential breakout here on FNV as well. And so I just like the overall technical story here, really on the daily chart. And once again, yeah, a lot of times people get way excited about this breakout here, and that's why you see the momentum of the breakout here. Obviously, you got a power candle on the earnings release as well, but a lot of times that reset of the support level going into a breakout is vitally important because you got to be thinking about technical analysis through the lens of a race here, right?
Yep.
You have not had a pivot since 158, which means if you were asking this puppy to break out of 180, you're asking it to run from 158 to 180 and then run to 190, run to 200. You're asking it to run more than it historically does. It historically doesn't behave that way. That's what we call potential average yield, how far something historically runs before it gets tired and develops into a secondary pattern. That's what this reset does. It not only gives a beautiful secondary pattern coming into the potential breakout, but what it does is it resets the entire analysis. It resets all how far something can run. Instead of assessing it from 158, you're now assessing that distance from 173. And when you're talking about a stock that just went from 158 to 180 before it pulled back, I kind of like the ability for it to run above 180 here. So just a really simple flag-based pattern going into a multiple time frame conversation. I'm a sucker for a reversal. I'm also a sucker for an MTF pattern here.
Oh
I
yeah.
talk about it all the time. Multiple time frame analysis at tackle trading. If If you want to learn how to do it, there is not a better place in the entire world to learn how to multiple time frame trade than a tackle trading. We anchor against it all the time. This is one of those situations. And like I said, I know you got a quality gold stock as well. I brought that big dog $180 stock. Well, we're going to get something for those cheapies too. But there's a lot of situations happening in your gold stocks. I think if you throw a dart, you're going to find a good one there. I
Oh
think
yeah.
ultimately it's based on GDX. GDX has to close above resistance. If we get that close above resistance, Franco closes above 180 here. Love the potential trade here. Frank, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I love a good multiple time frame breakout. So it's hard to get upset about that. And yeah, we never just look at one time frame here at tackle
No,
trading,
no,
right?
no.
We want
Well, the
multiple time
biggest
frame.
one of the biggest mistakes people make is they get so fixated on their time frame, and then when their time frame, doesn't work out, they're like, what? And it's like, well, if you would have pulled up a weekly chart, you would have saw a massively important resistance level right on top of it, or
Exactly.
whatever the case might be. It's multiple time frames are absolutely important here. I just like the front running going into it more than anything. The reset, the front running, it looks pretty good on a potential breakout. Now, I will say this, like multiple time frame, if you are doing anything underneath a breakout channel, you are doing it from a partial position sizing perspective and you are scaling in upon the breakout. If you don't know how to do that, wait for a close above 180.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really, really solid look, for sure. And you are correct. There are a lot of really nice looking gold stocks out there. So if these didn't happen to be your names, maybe worth going and do a little scan of your names. But I'm going to go the other side of it. I'm going to go with a low dollar baller, Maddie. One thing I like, and you brought it up earlier. I mean, I like the big dogs, don't get me wrong, but I really like the low dollar gold stocks. Just move bigger percentage wise, right? There's a little more volatility. It works both ways. So give me EQX. That is where I am going here today. Now, kind of like FNV, we were talking about a multiple time frame breakout, but unlike FNV, we've already broken out,
Yeah.
right? So Franco's just kind of knocking on the door, anticipating the breakout. These guys have already broken out, and now we've got a little bit of a flag based pattern into currently the 5 EMA. Today's candle was really important for this picture, right? Where we really sold off pretty good yesterday, but worked right back into, held that low. So we weren't even able to show any follow through off of yesterday's low, putting in the low inside bar, right? I talk about inside bars all the time, but it's where they are. Sometimes I want them high, sometimes I want them low on a flag based pattern. I want it to be a low inside bar,
Yeah,
right?
high base, you wanted a topside pattern.
Exactly. So we kind of got a nice, flag into it. And when you go into the intraday, it's a little bit behind, I would say, the FNV intraday, where
It
you
is.
kind of already taken out that trend. They're
Flag.
kind of knocking on that door of that trend here, right? A little bit of upward movement in price kind of pushes them through that level. So I do think you are looking at getting a little upward movement in price. Definitely got to get above today's high at a bare minimum, probably a few cents above that. Just wherever your trend line is, I do
I'd
think you
say
want to
seven,
get through
eight.
that. I
I'd
think you
say-
want to get through that trend line wherever, an individual might have it.
Yeah, you got a little support here, right here at 70 and 780 that kind of converges against the trend line on the flag here. That's the level you want to kind of anchor
Yeah,
against.
I like that. Yeah, let's call it. Yeah, that gets you that clear out there, right? So let's call it 780 here. But if we do get that, we've taken out that trend. We have the same overall story as the other gold stocks. You also had this tremendous pop on earnings. Now it's kind of, I don't want to say cheating, but it's a different read when it's a lower dollar stock, right?
It
But
is.
they did have a tremendous, like a 280% EPS beat, right? We know it's not really that, but right, but percent, right? Most importantly, it's not so much the earnings, it's the response to the earnings.
Mhm.
People really bought those earnings. They pushed it through a resistance level that it had been struggling with for quite some time, really. And we've, at least thus far, held that level, right? This is our first pattern out of that level. If we don't trigger tomorrow, I think we have the same analysis into the 9 EMA, which is also kind of that breakout channel around 740. So if we don't get that upward movement tomorrow, but we don't
I think
violate,
another candle like this looks really good
I
too.
think you're just as happy with that as you are if it goes from here, right?
Yeah.
Either way, I do think you kind of, are anchoring towards that level. Anything below that, you're probably looking elsewhere. At least I
One
am.
more day in consolidation, like gets you that trend line. Like,
Yeah.
boom.
Yes, it would be. Yes, it would be all right if it wanted to.
Yeah,
If it
that
wanted to do that,
wouldn't be the worst thought.
wouldn't complain. These guys aren't at all-time highs. Their all-time highs are way the heck, and you got to go all the way back into 2020 at around $14. So they've shown that they can be something
Catch up story here.
bigger, but they do have a really nice little catch-up story. And I have the next resistance level around $9. That was a pivot on the weekly chart, and I guess that would have been back in 22, April of 22. That's kind of what I see as the next challenge. And I'm going to kind of just look at this through the lens of the trade, right? Position wise, I think you could try to fight through that. But if we kind of think about the movement over that 780, right? And again, if we're a little bit lower and taking out that trend line, on Friday, that's okay with me as well. But going into tomorrow, with the stop loss underneath basically the 754 low from yesterday. Yesterday was 754. Today was 757. So underneath that low into that $9 level, which is the secondary target, but that's going to put you at somewhere in the 4-to-1 risk to reward ratio, which is perfectly sensible. I think you could make a case just to, T1 is what is 2-to-1, right? That'd be about 835 or thereabouts. I think you're trying to fill this space though, trying to catch that momentum into that $9 level. So it becomes more of a management than a hard target level. 9 would be a hard target for me. If it's a swing trade, that's probably the exit target. If it's a position trade, maybe that is T1. But what between here and 9, if you said 850, I'd say cool. If you said 875, I'd say cool. If you said 8.25, I would say cool. If you said 1-to-1, whatever that would need to be on your risk to reward, would be like 815. Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's a dealer's choice, very negotiable, as I like to say. But I do like this flag. If it goes through this tomorrow, I think it's actionable. I don't mind it at all if we basically have a lower inside bar tomorrow, right? But I think you got to be ready tomorrow if we get that
Structure of
movement.
this pattern would change even if you have another down day, and like as long as you are developing above that 9 EMA, you're going to see it through the flag lands.
Yes, as long as you're just navigating that. Like it gives that up, it's given up that breakout channel too, and I'm probably going to prefer other names, right? I think it is important that it maintains that breakout on top of that, which lines up really nicely with that 9 EMA. But anywhere from there, I'm perfectly happy.
All right, team. You heard it. We got 2 gold stocks off the beaten path a little bit. Not our typical gold stocks. Our typical gold stocks are like Newmont, KGC, a little bit of Barrick, but we came with Franco and EQX here today. Which one does everybody prefer here? You got the EQX momentum situation following a positive earnings report, and Frankie, a 280% beat on EPS is still a 280%
A
beat on
win's a win, right?
regardless if the expectation was 3 cents and it came in at 11 cents or whatnot. Now, if that same thing happened on Microsoft, we're probably talking about the biggest momentum condition in the history of mankind.
Yes,
So it
probably.
is a little bit different when you deal with the low EPS expectations, I would say. On Franco, Nevada, you have a little bit more of a front-running situation on a flag, similar flag, but a front-running situation going into a multiple time frame perspective. On this one, Frankie, and this, you and I, we kind of see a lot of things similar. You and I are like Coach Mark likes to say, Borg mind here.
Board mind, yeah.
I'll take Franco, Nevada here. I'm going to stay with
I
my.
figured it was going to win. People generally don't vote for my cheaper gold stocks. I am very used to that. This isn't the first time I've thrown a small dollar baller
No,
against
you do
a big name gold stock and lost. So I did anticipate that, and then I get it. I get it. I think they both play, so I got no beef if somebody prefers FNB. Plus, it's got a great first name.
It does have a great first name. It does have a
So, I
great
mean,
first.
I can't be hating on
We
that.
got a question from Gilbert here. Gilbert, what's up? Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, good to see you,
We
Gilbert.
had a question on your one of your stocks from last week on the potential. We were talking here last week on the breakout. What's your thoughts here on SRAD?
Yeah, this snapback kind of lined up with the whole market, but a great fire back here today. I think I'm still very interested above the highs, but I think you could make a case if we see any upward movement, we're kind of back through that breakout channel. right, over today's high. It would be aggressive, and as such, it would just be a front run if I was thinking about it from that point of view.
Mhm.
But all of the things, and this happened with some of the selling that we saw yesterday in more aggressive areas, including S Red falls into that. They held up better than most software stocks, but they were pushed down with it.
That's
So
true.
so for me, I'm kind of anchoring into those longer term time frames, specifically the weekly, and asking myself, Gilbert, did anything change on the weekly? And I would say no, nothing changed at all on the weekly time frame. I got to digest that volatility that happened in tech and specifically in software yesterday, right? But I've done a lot of that work here today, right? We shook a lot of that off. I think today's candle is very telling of the appetite that buyers have for SRAD, because I mean, I wasn't looking to buy it off of that low, Maddie, right? So to fire back into that hammer, I think that is telling us a little bit of a story here. I still do like it. I think the easy analysis is re-up above the high water mark, right? And that's kind of where I would kind of lean
Yeah.
towards. But I could understand a little bit of a front run on this in this particular case. And I'm not even going to try to make Maddie do it, but I'll throw it in the Discord. Uh,
If
this
I
is
was
one of
front running, I would be triggering about 30 and a half.
I'd be triggering above that high. And basically,
Well, it's right here is you got a double bottom on the low point here on the base. And so if it, that would be like the most aggressive trigger I could be convinced into. I
see, and
don't
yeah,
love
and
the situation here because bases that turn into pullbacks kind
oh, you
of
don't love it. You don't love it, right? You don't love that. See, I think look at these a little bit different, because I basically where it load here today was kind of the trend line. If you look at, I'm looking at hourly on my end, kind of the high from June into the high into August, and that's kind of where it landed. I look at these kind of as retracement to breakout channels, a little bit different than you do, sometimes to my benefit and sometimes to my great heart's
oh yeah,
heartbreak.
oh,
So
yeah. Both
because
sides.
of that is where it is bouncing. That makes sense. But I would agree, let's get back through that breakout channel if we're thinking about it through that lens. And that is more aggressive. I think the real trade is back through that. But I think for me, I'm still on the SRAD train. I think the weekly continues to back my play. I'm going to have to get shaken off of things, and this is generally true about me,
Yeah,
for right or wrong. I I have to kind of get shaken out of things from a weekly perspective, at least from wanting to no longer. I might hit a stop loss, right? So what? That's just what happened. I'm looking to re up because the weekly's telling me to re up,
yeah, yeah.
right? And so that's kind of where my thoughts are on these guys.
Appreciate your thoughts there, Frankie. No doubt about that. Patricia ALK here, a little bit of a stinker today. Had an opportunity on the breakout yesterday. Really
Really
clean.
tried. Yeah,
Opening.
really
Really
tried.
clean too. This is unfortunate, obviously, with today's gap down and volatility in the market because it had a beautiful trigger yesterday, Patricia. And obviously, when you get a fake out situation against a high base on a developing momentum situation, I think saying it's a stinker is the nicest way you could put it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
no
that's probably
doubt
a nice way to
about
put
that.
it. Yeah.
And Brian, we are very glad to be back on YouTube.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Brian. Been
Guys,
a
we're going to
minute.
be doing this on Wednesday during Trade Masters. For the most part, it's going to be the Matt and Frank show. We're going to have a lot of fun every Wednesday
For sure.
here in Trade Masters, and we're going to be doing it every single Wednesday. And so definitely come back, check it out. We do the podcast recording on Mondays. So we do the Trading Justice podcast, which is for those of you who are finding us on YouTube at Tackle Trading. The Trading Justice podcast is like a kind of like a weekly prep, more macro conversation. We really don't get into the nitty gritty of every other conversation we do at Tackle Trading, but Trade Masters is all about technical analysis and talking trades and whatnot. And then we'll be posting new videos. Gino just created a Thinkorswim how to use drawing tools. We'll be posting that tomorrow on our YouTube channel as well. So we're going to be doing more and more on our YouTube channel. So we will definitely be back. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you love Trade Masters, you love the education and application, because we don't like just to talk about the potential trade. We like to teach people about why we like the potential trade, breaking down the analysis. So make sure to hit that like, hit that share, and subscribe if you don't, so you know when we go live. And last thoughts for me before I'll turn it over to you for final thoughts here, Frankie, is if you're not a pro member of Tackle Trading and you are ready to become a pro member of Tackle Trading, you can go over to tackletraining.com. You can hit the link in the description below as well and sign up for a free trial of Tackle Trading. We just got done with a amazing master trader
Oh yeah, it
class.
was awesome.
It was so good, guys. Gino did so amazing yesterday. I caught some of it on the recording today. I taught night one on a deep dive on all things Elliott wave theory, ABC cycles, wave counting, Fibonacci projections, you name it. It was an amazing master trader class this month, and we do it every single month for our pros. And guess what? You could literally get access to those recordings right now with a free trial. So if you're not a member of Tackle Trading, head over there to tackletraining.com, hit the link in the description below and become one. And then secondarily, Frankie, that newsletter every single week, guys, it is the best newsletter
Best way to prepare
in
for the week, no doubt.
business, period, end of sentence. Every coach puts a tremendous amount of work into the newsletter and the traders report, and obviously our pro members have access to the Tackle Train newsletter. It will make sure that you understand the market conditions, the environment, both technical, fundamental, and economically, every single week, week after week after week. The best newsletter in the business. There is not a
Absolutely.
better
No
one.
better way to prepare for the week than
Right.
get through that newsletter
Better than
for
staying
sure.
at a Holiday Inn, I would say there, Frankie.
It is.
Um,
It is.
with that said, Frankie, give us some final
Yeah,
thoughts.
well, thank you for joining us here today. Will you give me HP on the backdrop, Maddie?
Yeah,
Just
of course.
I'll cheat and throw this in there. Last night, Coach Greg and I and the team talked about some reversal type of scenarios going on in the market. We didn't specifically look at HP, but this was one that was on my mind. We had a lot of fun. So in addition to all the other things we're doing, we're constantly grinding away, coming up with ideas, whether they're dividend ideas, swing trade ideas, cash flow ideas, all of the above. Hanging out with Coach Greg and the Coaches Show on Tuesdays, one of my favorite things to do each week. So just another benefit to becoming a pro member. Thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you. It's great to see some of you again that we haven't seen since we were on YouTube. We will be back again, same channel, maybe same time. I think we're still ironing out the exact time, but we'll be back on Wednesday.
Around the time usually, but
Roughly
it'll
same
be
time,
give or take.
definitely same channel here on Wednesday. Hope you'll join us once again. But other than that, get out of here. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Happy trading, and get over to Tackle Trading.
Best community ever. You guys are the absolute best. We love you. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow in the Traders Lounge.